Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, we're up here in Crofton with PCR Roofing, which has a double name, but we're here with Ken Baden, who is the founder, owner, president.
Yes, all three of those are true. Yes, sir. Yep. Technical title, I suppose, is president. But yes, I founded the company a few years back, and technically speaking, we originated in 2019, I think is the actual filing date, but we didn't do anything with it until 2021 was the first full-time year because there were two businesses at the time, one in Southern Maryland and one here in Annapolis. I owned the one in Annapolis outright. I had a partner who owned the other one, and we worked kind of hand in hand. We were looking at a novel concept, but that was like super short-lived, as partnerships tend to be. And by the March of that year, this was my full-time baby, and ever since then, it's been my responsibility and the team that you see out here. A lot of those guys were with me back then. The young man over there, he was with me then and a couple companies before that, so I've been really blessed. Pretty
well. Well, PCR Roofing is based here in Crofton. You're on SB Court, and the other company that you have is Potomac Custom Remodeling, and your acronym sort of worked out pretty well with PCR. So are you involved with both the roofing and the...
Yes. So PCR Roofing derived from, Potomac Custom Remodeling. Obviously, that's an acronym. And what we were doing last year was we had PCR Roofing, PCR Bathrooms, and PCR Solar. We've since not nixed entirely. Bathrooms we did because we just weren't seeing enough. From a business standpoint, it wasn't going to go green soon enough to meet our timeline.
Okay.
Cost per acquisition and other things. It was a concept somebody had brought to us. Hey, here's something that we think's really cool.
It's also a different type of a market as well. I mean, you've got, you see the ads on TV where like, hey, bath fitter, we're going to come in.
It's similar to that, by the way.
And just do it in a day. Mm-hmm. And then you've got these folks that come in and will, renovate, if you will, as opposed to recreate. So it seems like there's probably a little bit more competition.
It is, and it was acrylic driven, so it was like a kind of an in between both of those. What you just said, the idea was we can do it in a day or two. So I was appealing because all exterior products are typically done in a day or two. You're in, you're out. When you're working in someone's home, it's a whole different deal. You're inside, especially if you're doing a full on bathroom remodel. You're there for a week or two.
Right.
It's just a whole different level of
4 or 5 of the homeowner's home.
Yeah, it's an intimacy thing. You're there for a long time. And I mean, it's a whole different deal. And it was just something we're like, okay, let's just pull that off and focus on what we really know. And let's get really, really, really good at the thing that we've been doing the longest. That was roofing. So solar kind of was this popular thing that went hand in hand with roofing. And we had boots on the ground last year, and we can still do it. We will still do it. But again, we've really decided to condense everything and focused on roofing. Had we done that, I don't know that we would have worried about the acronym at the time.
Right.
But when we had 3 different divisions, we're like, hey, this PCR brand and
let it go.
Yeah. So now it's PCR Roofing is Potomac Custom Remodeling, and Potomac Custom Remodeling also does do other exterior products like windows, siding, things like that. So
doors,
you get it, right? The exterior package, window, siding, doors, gutters, whereas PCR Roofing is essentially just roofing.
And obviously those go hand in hand.
Yes, sir.
As well, too. So, well, I mean, okay, so you said this started back in 19, you really didn't do a whole lot. 21, you sort of hit the ground running and stuff like that. I mean, where does your sweet spot? Is it the roofing or is it the remodeling or
Definitely the roofing.
Is it?
Definitely.
Okay.
Roofing. Yeah. That's what we focus most of our attention on.
Well, I think that there's probably a greater need for that. I mean, the roof tends to be, for most homeowners, an ignored necessity, if you will. I mean, as long as it's over your head, we're okay. And then when it starts to leak, that's when you think about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And you don't think about age and damage and everything else. Mm-hmm. And, certainly I know that, a friend of mine had, hail damage, didn't realize that it did damage. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, fast forward a couple of years and it's like, wow, okay, well, we maybe should have put an insurance claim in, but we
Yeah.
didn't. So, the roof is something, that's the key guts of a home. You really need to take care of them. And I wrote an editorial once about the city of Annapolis. I said, they keep buying all these Rolls Royces, but they never change the oil. And that's very similar, I think, with the home. I mean, if you're not,
That's a great, can I take that line and put that in our that's a great line.
sure. I mean, if you're, you this huge purchase that you've made, the biggest purchase of your lifetime, probably, the thing that you want is 4 walls and a roof. Let's make sure that it's in good shape.
I couldn't agree more. The analogy I use is when I try to tell folks, I say the same thing. You're right. They don't do anything usually. They're always reactive, not proactive. So when they see a leak, but by the time you've seen a leak, it's typically leaked through the roof deck, down through your attic, through your insulation, into your drywall. And then, you might have mold, you might have other problems. And it's like, now you have a much bigger problem than you would have had you been proactive. But I get it. I mean, the roof is probably the least fun thing too. It's like the biggest burden in being a homeowner. I mean, I'm a homeowner. You don't look at that like, man, I can't wait to get a new roof. It's not a Rolls Royce.
No, I'm looking for the jacuzzi.
You know what I mean? Right. The jacuzzi, or even something like the wife's like, okay, siding, I can visually see how we're going to piece this together and it's going to look great and really make my house pop. There's only so much we can do with the roof. Like a metal roof looks cool, but then when they say the price associated with a metal roof, it doesn't look as cool. And like,
wow. Okay. Well, that sort of begs the question: what types of roofing? I mean, I know there's slate and there's shingle and there's cedar and there's asbestos. I guess they don't use asbestos anymore.
Not anymore, but they did.
That type of a thing. But I mean, do you do all?
Yeah.
Types of?
Yeah, we can do any of them. Most of what we see, and you see here, Potomac is a platinum installer for Owens Corning. So we are licensed and certified to sell GAF, which is the #1 installed roofing shingle, period, in the United States. Owens Corning, both of which, Owens Corning and GAF, are 100% American made. This business might be me, but it was inspired by my father and his efforts. And he was, Navy, Air Force, and him and his buddy used to do like decks and exterior things just on the side, just word of mouth, And so we really liked using American-made products, and Owens Corning approached us. We're the fastest to ever achieve that designation, which really just means in a short period of time, our volume and our quality are as such, because they do quarterly spot checks, 2 houses, random, make sure you're installing it to their specs.
Really, this is a manufacturer of
they're on their stuff, man. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, they are on it. They will yank they're very picky because there's only 13 other contractors in the state that have that designation. So, that's rare air. There's even less. We just opened our office in Delaware. There's 2 in the 60-mile radius. So if we were to sit with you and say, listen, would you like to explore a platinum package, which is a warranty, but subsequent features that you have to get that warranty? You know what I mean? Because it's going to be guaranteed to last for a true 50 year. But in order to do that, you have to have X, Y, Z. It's a full package, right?
Sure.
But that's asphalt shingles. That's all it is. Asphalt shingles. They focus on asphalt shingles. I would say that's 85% of the market. Here in Annapolis, it's unique. We see some cedar shake. We don't see a whole lot of, there's a doctor friend of mine that's in Severna Park. There's a ton of cedar shake. There's some options in the cedar shake side where it's faux cedar shake or slate. So a synthetic cedar shake or slate. That's another option, but that's incredibly, that and metal it's a whole nother territory. It's super high price point. Super intimate installation, one at a time. There's a product called Da Vinci that's a synthetic slate. Beautiful, real high price point. And I mean, that's where you're getting into the Baltimore County, some of the Ravens players maybe. You know what I mean? Some of those guys, not me, but I'm an asphalt shingle guy.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, if you had a house that with somebody else's wallet,
okay,
what are you putting on your roof?
That's a really cool question, because I have asphalt shingles, but if I had a house with someone else's wallet,
not mine, because man, you can put like cardboard up there, right?
Probably the synthetic, probably like a Da Vinci or a synthetic. It's just that, or I mean, it really looks good. Cedar shake, but the Da Vinci, I like black and white. There's some real big houses like in Bethesda, Potomac area, hence the name Potomac. We thought if we named it Potomac, even though we were out of Annapolis, we might get some of that Potomac
How'd that work out for you?
Not very well. Not very well. We do great in Annapolis, and Potomac like barely knows we exist. So we should have just named it Annapolis something. But anyhow, I'd probably do something like that, like a synthetic slate. It looks great. It's just really, really expensive.
Well, I got to think that, I mean, when you do get a new roof on your home, and I mean, I'm presuming that you work on existing homes. I mean, you're not working with
Yeah, not new construction. New constructions, when it comes to new construction, when they build new construction homes, it's a whole different market in itself. It's what's the most cost effective. I don't want to use the word cheap because I don't want to insult these builders. No, I mean, but the way I look at it is like they're using like, what's the cheapest product we can use? I mean, most of us have owned a home and it's like, man, this is cheap. Well, yeah, that's their deal, is how cheaply can I make this, knowing full well that there's another market which we exist in, which is, the remodeling market, and our products are designed to be the last, like, that's it. You know what I mean? So it's a symbiotic, like, cohesive relationship. But if they didn't do that, then we wouldn't have any business, right? We would all be in new construction. But yeah, I mean, that's why we exist, is because they use those cheap products. So
what is the challenge for a home today? I mean, I see some of these crazy roof lines. I mean, does that make it a challenge for a company such as PCR Roofing, to have these crazy roof lines? Or is it a location? Is it a condition?
A lot of the challenges now are honestly I would say heavy oversaturation. The storm market, which Maryland is not a storm state. And so there's the insurance side of roofing, and there's a whole nother world to that where, people, the insurance companies would have folks believe like, oh, this is a big scam and all this stuff. You said you had a friend that had hail, and had they filed that back then, if they truly had hail damage, they could have potentially gotten that taken care of through their insurance carrier and saved them quite a bit of money. We don't get a whole lot of real deal hail for that to be the case.
Right.
But wind, we do. And what they used to pay for, they being the insurance carriers, was minimal wind. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I've only ever done what we would call retail. Like, you want a quote, we sell it. Recently, we've started to explore this insurance side, but it's gotten so heavily. And when I say this insurance side, like, my guys are taught to inspect for damage. If what they see, they believe is storm damage, well, I'm going to tell you, like, hey, I think this might actually be storm damage. It's in my professional opinion, this is storm damage. If I don't know what your insurance policy says, but if it could save you, it might be worth exploring. I mean, we're talking a lot of money.
Well, sure. My check is just as good as the insurance company's check to you.
Your check's even better, to be honest, because your check comes way quicker and with way less scrutiny and way less. I mean, they just don't want to pay. It's such a mess. But
I mean, I know that when a storm does come through, whether it be wind or sometimes we hail or whatnot, we see the signs popping up
everywhere.
And they're usually like 703 phone numbers.
Yes.
And they come in and it's like, hey, we're doing a roof on your neighbor's house, and that to me seems a little bit sketchy.
Yes.
Seems a little bit disingenuous as far as a legitimate business goes. And I would never recommend anybody to do that. I think that,
but that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly my point, is it's just gotten bombarded. We have a real storm here. We try and do our very best to, we had last year, November, we had the Just for the Kids charity and block party out here, totally free. Went handing out flyers, invited all of our Crofton neighbors. There's a decent turnout. I don't know if you're familiar with the Just for the Kids charity, created by two local business owners here in Crofton. It goes direct to a sick kid in the area. No money goes anywhere else. Like, it's a verified, vetted, awesome charity.
Community.
Yep. We donated $10K to that. And then we had a big, like, all this stuff for the kids, bouncy house, all this stuff, just to try to kind of like, hey, we want to really just get to know our neighbors. No caveats, no catch, no you sign up for an estimate. And I say that to say, like, we want to really build a brand where we get to know our folks. Well, then you have a storm, people from Virginia, Carolina, everywhere, people that did this for 2 months and realized, like, well, the insurance might pay for this. And I'll be candid. Their aim is not to find real storm damage yet, to go out, and I know this exists, and create manufactured damage and pretend it was storm damage, right, and then tell the homeowners
and be able to talk the insurance company into it.
And they're so hip to that. But it still exists, at least for now. And you've got kids that don't even know what the first thing about doing a roof. I've installed roofs. I've done this. I dress the way that I dress because I believe that when I'm speaking to my people and things of that nature, I want to put on what I believe is the epitome of success, whether that is whatever that looks like. You know what I mean? And I'm aware that when people see me like, you're a roofer, come on, man. I put on plenty of roofs. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not wearing this when I'm up there. But now I'm trying to put on a different. I want my guys to see like, hey, you can do this too, and if that's appearance, that's irrelevant, but whatever you visualize as success, that's what matters. You know what I mean? But moreover, back on that, it's so heavily saturated. It's so hard. Like, it's important for us to build a brand here in the community, but then you get all these guys coming in here and they'll say anything to get people to sign up. They'll say, we'll pay your deductible. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can't do that. We can't do that.
Right.
But they'll do it. Sure. And then the company, they're doing, it's just, so we've done everything we can to distance ourselves from that. With that, we belong to a group called RSRA, the Roofing Solar Reform Alliance Group, which basically exists to say, you guys got to go. You guys doing all these poor practices and doing all this crazy stuff. You're hurting the industry.
This is the best practices in the industry.
Exactly.
And we're in it. You're not.
Exactly. And hopefully the customer cares and is like, you know what? Yeah, I want to do business with you. But some of them.
I would say to a customer, somebody that has a potential customer, if there's a big storm that comes through here, be cognizant that there may be damage to your roof. If I were to call you and say, hey, Ken, we had that storm that came through last night. Can you come out and just check my roof and make sure it's okay?
100%. And we've told so many people, if it's not, we tell them. If it is, we tell them. And I can't tell you how many people have thanked us. Like this lady recently, she said, it's so refreshing that you didn't try to sell. Like, they were good. Roof's fine. Your roof's in good shape. Call us when it's not,
Perfect. And again, I will venture to say that you don't sell yourself on price. And that doesn't mean that you are the most expensive and gouging either. You look at the quality that's there. You look, we'll talk concrete work and the pastranas.
Oh man, yeah.
And end of the conversation. Let's just stop right here. Yes, can you get it done for a couple $100 cheaper? Oh, for sure. And then you're going to be turning around and replacing it and jacking it up and figuring it out. And with the pastranas, anyhow, at least they're standing by their stuff years and years and to do that.
We do the same thing. With that platinum warranty, I don't know of another one that exists. Assuming they say, hey, we'd like to take you up on that. First of all, we offer a 2-year labor warranty on anything that we touch, no matter what, on top of any manufacturer warranty. And because we're platinum, they back us with a 25-year labor warranty plus a 50-year product. That thing's warranted. There should be nothing that happens to that roof that isn't covered at that point. Should the customer say, yes, I'd like to pursue that. But regardless, we've replaced roofs for free with like anything that we can think of. We've helped homeowners that just didn't have it, and we don't go out and promote any of that or anything like that. But we want to take care of our people. We believe in, if you do stuff like that, you call it karma, call it what you want, but eventually that'll build up within the community. And you'll make the name that you want to make.
It comes back because, and again, I'm not dealing with you, maybe twice in my life?
Yeah.
Something
maybe,
like that.
Yeah,
I'm not buying burgers from you, okay?
Yeah.
So, maybe 2, maybe 3 times if I've got some investment properties or something along those lines. But, I'm telling my next door neighbor saying that, hey, PCR Roofing came out. They kicked ass on the job. Had a little problem. They came back.
Yes.
They took care of it.
Which I think is even better, by the way. That's like the biggest thing. If you don't lie to people. I tell people all the time, this is construction. Something could happen, but we have a 24-hour response time to all service calls, 3-day closeout time, period. No matter what it is. Because I think when people give you their money and you don't respond quick, that's the quickest way for them to be like, I knew it. I knew it's too good to be true. I knew you.
I'm going on Facebook.
Yes. Yeah. We don't want that. So we want to make sure that they feel that they made the right decision even after they've made that decision. I think that what you said is just so important. Like, once you get the business, then now you got to keep it, because that business could lead to other business. Or maybe they want windows. Mr. Phoenix up the street, he's an attorney. He was not an easy sell. But now he's done commercials with us. We've done his siding, his roofing, his windows, his solar. Anything he can get through us, he's just, hey, man, what can you guys do next? And so we love our people, but you're right.
It sounds like a reputation is preceding you in the community, though.
I appreciate it. We're trying.
Not a thing. What's the lifespan of a roof? You talked about, I might replace a roof in a house.
Yes.
I mean, you talked about the diamond warranty.
Sure, platinum warranty, but I get it. Yeah, the typical lifespan for a residential, most of what our folks have in this area are going to be asphalt shingles, assuming you have, because folks will say, well, I have a 25-year shingle on here. Well, what that really means is your builder put a 25-year roof on, and that's what it is. I mean, but that doesn't mean it's warranted for 25-year. Average lifespan between 15 and 20.
Right.
If you get 25 out of that, man, like with no leaks, no blow-offs, but do you really want to wait until, again, you've had a leak? Like if it's 15 to 20 years, I'll put it to you this way. If you have a roof between 15 and 20 years here in the state of Maryland, you are at risk of receiving from your insurance carrier, which you have to have if you own that home, what's called a drop letter. I can show you 4 or 5 of them right now. They have been pulling, look this up, there's a news article for it in New England, and I can show you several of them right here. Basically what these carriers are doing is they're looking and seeing, this roof's 15 years old or 20 years old. They're buying data from Google Images, whatever, and they see that this roof looks like it's a little old, and they're going to be proactive, and they're going to send out this letter and say, roof's a little old, replace it in 30 days, or we're going to drop you. That's insane.
You know, I've read a couple articles on that. It was happening up in New York.
Yes.
There was actually it was with a roof. There was an older slate roof, and they had a moss growing on it. And they came through and they said that was improper maintenance to do it, and it was an inherited home from a grandmother or something along those lines, and they dropped it. And I know my girlfriend down in, she got a knock on the door one day and said, "Hey, I'm from Nationwide, and there's a crack in the little pathway in the slate in the pathway that leads from your driveway back to the backyard that needs to be done, or we're going to, you're at risk of being dropped."
Mm-hmm.
And she called up her agent, and he's like, "Yeah, they're kind of doing this now."
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll blame Milton, we'll blame Helene, we'll blame,
Sure.
all these natural disasters where the insurance companies are getting beat to hell to do it. And they've got to make money. I get it. But that's a real hard thing, especially, I imagine it's going to get to a point where, like an auto insurance, if you have enough tickets or enough DUIs or something like that, you're going to be impossible to insure.
Yeah. That's the most interesting thing to keep your eye on. If you're a homeowner and you have to have homeowners insurance, but there's a lot of them that don't want to insure. There is, again, heavy oversaturation on that side of things in this market. So I get that. There is certainly, from their side, there's a lot of roofers that don't know the first thing about a roof. They just see dollar signs. So do your homework, know who it is that, is knocking on your door. Make sure it's a reputable company. Ask how long they have experience. Do they have any credentials? What about you says you know what you're talking about, and you're not just trying to tear my roof up to make money.
So if your roof is approaching 20 years at minimum, you should definitely have a professional inspection.
Yeah, I just get an inspection, have it taken a look. I mean, understand, I understand.
What does an inspection cost about?
We do it for free. We do them for free. I mean, and most companies will, but so you have two sides of the industry. You have retail, and they'll say, okay, well, we'll come do an inspection. Well, they're going to do that from the ground, and that will tick some people off. But if they're a retail-driven company, they're probably just looking at it like, do I see blue-green algae, black streaking, visual cues to see that this roof is older. Then I can weigh how old is the house, how old is the roof. A lot of that is definitely enough to kind of tell where we're at. And then I'm going to offer you a full replacement situation. In our instance, we do the insurance restoration as well. So our guys will go up there and inspect. So we're kind of a hybrid between the two. Albeit I have definitely tried to pull back from the insurance because it's just such a pain in the butt. But there's no better feeling than when you can save. If I can save you that money versus have you spend it, it's amazing. But when it takes 6 months now to get paid from the insurance carrier, that's why I joked about, man, your money's even better because you'll actually pay me.
Sure.
But man, when you can tell the homeowner when it's an old lady that doesn't have any, it doesn't matter who it is, but my grandmother was somebody that was really important in my life. And, if I could save that person money, why wouldn't I do it? You know what I mean? But it's just gotten so much harder. Milton, all these other issues. But at the same token, State Farm just had that case against them last year where they got fined for basically not paying for stuff they should have, took the fine and still made, $1 billion, $12 billion last year anyways.
Yeah, my heart's not bleeding.
Right.
The insurance
okay, guys. But that's the truth. If you own a roof, if you own a home, I'd say between 15 and 20 years, it's worth, don't try to get up there yourself, especially if it's steep. A lot of the roofs in Annapolis are very steep because they look better. What it's considered a non-walkable roof is anything above an 8-12 pitch, meaning it slopes 8 inches
Right.
Every foot you get up there, that could be very, very dangerous. And you can die 10 feet or higher. I mean, you can die. So having a professional take a look at it is worth.
I don't even like cleaning out my gutter.
Right. I understand. You get a roof, you get free gutter cleaning automatically. Anybody that's worth their salt anyhow.
There you go. Well, what areas do you serve? Okay. We've got, obviously we've got the P is Potomac and,
well, that's a weird thing. We're in Annapolis. We started in Annapolis. We moved over to Crofton. We've always served Annapolis. I really I don't know. I don't want to say regret, but like we wanted to build this brand in Annapolis, but we named it Potomac. I've lived in Annapolis since I moved up here from Southern Maryland. My wife and I live in Annapolis. We fell in love in Annapolis. We love everything about Annapolis. I've had the mayor on my podcast. I mean, like, I'm about as Annapolis gets,
Right.
And Potomac hasn't shown the same love that Annapolis has.
What areas do you work? I mean,
Annapolis, Potomac, the entire honestly, we work most of Maryland. There's not many places in Maryland that we are not.
Okay.
Maybe far, far west up in the mountains, but we'll go to the Eastern Shore because we have the Delaware office. So we'll go as far Southern Maryland, Northern Maryland, Eastern Shore.
Okay. So Havre de Grace down to,
I'd say Frederick, Hagerstown is probably the cap on the west side.
Right. Just not Potomac because they haven't felt the
well, we'll go to Potomac. Potomac, please give us a shout. But we've done some work there, just not nearly enough to have named our business Potomac.
Well, are there any jobs that you avoid? I mean, when you come onto a thing and go, oh, this is, I don't want to say beyond what we can do because, or just, it could be the homeowner. I mean,
a really, really old home that's just not been attended to. I don't want to say we'll avoid it, but man, there's been times where we've looked at situations and just had to say, this is beyond, because then we have to be candid with the homeowner and say, look, in order to do this as a licensed contractor to code, we've got to do X, Y, and Z, which is going to open up A, B, and C, which is going to, and then it's going to cost, it could cost all this. And looking at this house, it's unlikely. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, no.
You're probably looking at saying, well, we're looking at a $25,000 roof, but when we get that old roof on, we're going to see knob and tube wiring or whatever it may be. And then it may end up costing $100,000.
I have seen multiple layers. I've seen skylights that were really glass sliding doors that a hairy homeowner put a sliding door as a skylight on his roof. I've seen.
Is that a problem?
That's not code, I can tell you that. I've seen, I would say a lot of things that I would tend to avoid would be things that homeowners build themselves, because then they're not to code. We know they weren't built to code. So us to come back and like put a roof over top of something, we know the only way to really redo this is to tear it all down. I had a house in Northern Maryland where the extension was built by someone, not anybody. If it was a licensed contractor, they didn't do it correctly. The way they did it was too low of a slope. They attached it wrong. So then you have to kind of make up a solve that is not the proper solve, and then get an addendum because as a licensed contractor, we're bound by code, right? So the real fix is like, this is not built to code. So in order to do it, we need to reframe it, do all these other things. And the homeowner's like, whoa, I just wanted a new roof, pal. You know what I mean? So
yeah, what are you taking me for?
Right. And so the bottom line is those situations where homeowners or someone who was not a licensed contractor built something not to code, then we have to come back behind it, are the biggest things that we'd probably walk away from.
What's your sweet spot? What do you love to walk up onto?
30 to 45 square
Steve
homes.
Bisciotti's house.
That would be amazing. You know what? Steve Bisciotti's house would be amazing. Kyle Ripken's. I'd say, the average size roof in the state of Maryland is going to be somewhere around 30 squares. A square is a 10-foot by 10-foot area. That roofer jargon, that's what we calculate. Like, hey, that's 30 squares, 10 squares. Townhome average 10 squares. I'd say 30 to 45 squares, standard up and over, but it's got some valleys. I'd say the standard home probably in some parts of Annapolis, like Riva and stuff, you know what I mean? Big enough, but not complex to where it's very simple in and out in a day.
And that's your goal. Well, I mean, obviously, the quicker you want to get it done, the less problem.
Well, yeah, the less problems that arise, the more happy the homeowner is. But if it takes 2 days, 3 days, I mean, cedar shakes are not going to be done in a day. That's a multiple day job. I love those, the way they look afterwards. But, and if we could get more cedar shake and more synthetic work, I would love that. But that's a whole different ball game, whole different price point, whole different demographic. So our sweet spot currently is going to be that architectural asphalt shingle replacement. A lot of the Riva clients and stuff like that, your standard folks, really.
Sure. Ken, what makes a good customer for you? I've called PCR Roofing and I say, okay, we need to do the roof.
Yeah.
How can I make your job easier?
Oh,
Get the hell out of your way.
yeah. Let us work. I mean, we have clients that try to climb on the roof, and I'm like, this is an active construction scene. I don't mind. You do whatever you'd like to after the fact or before the fact. But, try to come on the roof, try to dictate. Not often, but I just say, let us do our work. Trust that we're going to provide documentation. We do a full photo report of what's called a company cam report of every single phase of everything we're doing on your roof to provide to you. Just someone that's very non-confrontational, pays on time. That's always nice, and allows us to do what we need to do in order to do the roof the right way.
Is there financing available?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
Most clients are probably going to be, especially now, probably going to be financed.
Okay. So you work with a third party that.
Sure. We have a couple different financiers.
Okay.
Green Sky, Service Finance. One of my mentors, who's also a local business person here in the Annapolis area, lives in Annapolis. He owns a Pure Finance Group. It's another one. So yeah, we do.
Okay. So it's not necessarily to have to go take out a second mortgage on that house.
No, most people, you know what I mean? Because to your point, what if you get a leak and most people don't have that kind of money set aside? So being proactive, most people are going to finance.
Fantastic. I mean, it sounds like you make it very easy to do business with you. And I will say that just from the brief time that we've talked to, you sit there and you feel a little bit comfortable. And I always recommend to people to do business with people that you like, that you feel comfortable
100%.
with. You look at, my daughter's getting married now and she's looking at photographers, and the whole thing is, I'm like, Victoria, you need to be really comfortable with the photographer because she's going to be up your butt from like 8 in the morning until, whatever it is. And if you're miserable with her, it's just going to be a miserable day. And I think that really extends out into businesses as well. You sit there and you look at business. I mean, I'm not going to just walk in and say, hey, Ken, here's my deposit. Let's
100%.
go. But I know that you're going to give me referrals. I may have a neighbor that worked with you, but you're going to give me the referrals. I mean, certainly the certifications that you've earned from Corning.
Owens Corning, yes, sir.
Owens Corning. Yeah. They have that Owens in front of that. I thought that was short of name.
Same, I guess, right?
And, to be able to do that, I mean, looking around in your office as far as the awards and everything else, and here, go out and look at the roof at 123 Main Street Drive, whatever it may be. And that's really what you want. And again, you look at a company that's going to stand by it. You look at a company that's, going to come out. I mean, do a free inspection. I mean, if you've got an older roof, hey, come on out.
Yes, sir.
The roof is so important. Yeah. And if you've been in your home, certainly for 20 years, have it looked at if you haven't replaced the roof.
Absolutely.
And even if you're going to the home 5 or 10 years, and
it's of a certain age, or you're suspect. What I would say, this is one of the biggest things we see, home inspectors, and I'm not beating up on anybody that may be or may not be, but I have a lot of friends in real estate. I don't know how they miss some of the things that they do, but I have a lot of folks that move in a couple years and someone knocks on the door and says, oh, hey, your roof looks like this. And they're shocked because they just had a home inspector say it's good to go. I had one client had lived there for a year. She had 5 layers of shingles on her roof. Now, code dictates that you can have 2. She had 5. Somehow this was missed by the inspector, and now she's left to hold the bag, and that happens a lot. So maybe even if you're looking to buy a house, call us. We can take a look at it just to see what maybe the inspector may not have looked at. I don't know. Again, it's just something I've seen several times.
Well, again, I'm going to say that the home inspector is a generalist. They're coming in, they're looking, okay, you've got a grounded outlet here, you've got a GFI
Sure.
here, you've got the microwave works and the heating works. I feel hot water, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a roof. I see it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Without digging into the things. Whereas you look with, PCR Roofing, you are an expert.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to be up there and look and say, okay, I know. I mean, when I was buying a house at one point, some real estate agent told me, and I thought it was a great tip, said, if you're not sure about the age of the home, pull the lid off of a toilet tank and look in the back of the tank, and it stamps the date of the tank of manufacture.
That's brilliant.
Toilets usually don't go bad, and you obviously would know it. And they stamp it in the porcelain there, so you know it was roughly made about that time. So if someone says, oh, it was built in the 80s, and you see a 1972 stamp in the back of the toilet tank, it's like, well, okay, you're blowing smoke.
Right. The toilet says otherwise.
Go with an expert when you do that. And again, I mean, it's great that you're able to do additional work that really complements a roof. I mean, you talk about the gutters, you talk about the doors, you talk about the windows, and they're all tied in together. It's that exterior.
Yes. The siding is a big one too. That's what we're doing right now. There's a young man calling me about a client up in northern Maryland, Baltimore County. We're redoing her whole siding, and her house is going to look awesome when it's all said and done. I mean, that actually was done through her insurance carrier, which is rare, but I mean, she was able to get her siding and her roof. I mean, talk about a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's only getting harder and harder, but man, that was, well, she's older. The house is older. She's been super stressed because her husband's been in bad health, and to be able to help her with that, man, was super cool, because she's like, this is amazing. I'm trusting you guys to do this. And now the whole house is, I mean, it's awesome. All she really cared about too was like, can you redo my numbers, my house numbers? I'm like, we'll redo the house numbers. Promise we'll get you new house numbers. In fact, that's what he's calling me about right now. He's like, I got to go run to Home Depot to get her house numbers. I'm like, yes, you do. Because that was the one thing she said.
So don't worry about the side. Just make sure the
siding, sure, whatever color, but make sure I get new house numbers.
Well, Ken, I want to thank you for your time. Congratulations on growing such a firm in such a little amount of time.
Thank you so much.
You came out of COVID and said, hey, let's do this.
Right.
Just curious, how did you get into the roofing business? I mean, have you been swinging a hammer all your life? Or?
My dad had me start construction when I was 16 just to learn the value of hard work, but I was a college graduate, and, his intention was not for me to go back into construction, but to, learn the value of hard work. Well, when I graduated college, I got into, ironically, State Farm and sold insurance for a bit.
Sorry.
And I know. And so I got recruited and saw an ad for selling windows because the State Farm thing didn't work out. And I've been in the industry ever since 2008 on the sales side. Then I went into project management side. Then I went into sales management side, and into installation for a summer so I could better understand, like, when you install it, you have those guys work their butt off. Each of those bundles is like 80 pounds, sometimes more. So you put two of them on your shoulder and you're humping them up, which is mostly what I was doing, because I was not the skilled labor.
Right.
I was just the muscle,
the grunt.
So yeah, I very rarely had a nail gun in my hand, but then I can firsthand tell you, like, oh yeah, when we put this on, this is how it's going to stick. This is how it's going to fit. Here's the issue. It was one of the most invaluable things for me. Because a lot of guys will sell, but they've never swung a hammer. They've never installed it. So installing for me was invaluable. And then I went into, sales management, VP. And finally, I just went on my own because I felt like I could do it better. I don't know what else to say,
Most businesses I talk to, they get into it because they felt there was a better way.
Yeah.
Potomac Custom Remodeling, or PCR Roofing.com, will bring you to the same place.
Yes.
And I would suggest that anybody that has any older roofs, give them a call. Have them come out and take a look at it. I think you'll be impressed with the personality of the company. I think you'll be impressed with the comfort of the company. I think that if you've got any exterior remodeling that may be needing, I appreciate your time today, and congratulations. And for those in need of a roof, now you know.
Yes, thank you so much. Annapolis, make sure we'll change our name maybe one of these days so we can appropriately shift the Annapolis market. Or maybe someone in Potomac will hear this and we'll actually get lucky.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.